Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma Crew. I have something special for you today. I am super excited to bring you another adoptee story. Not only an adoptee story, but I get to talk about non-traditional healing therapies, which you know is totally in my wheelhouse. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest, Amanda. Amanda is a Puerto Rican transracial adoptee. She is a certified trauma-informed, energetic guide and somatic healer. Love it. Through quantum hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and other somatic practices, she can assist you to shift your trauma and propel you to make life-altering progression. She has spent over 3 decades healing her own complex PTSD, and being diagnosed with ADHD later in life, she eventually found her gifts. Part of her healing process included traditional therapy, as well as diving into quantum hypnosis, energy work, and practicing yoga, breathwork, and meditation. Through these healing modalities, she found a calling to utilize her own healing gifts and intuition to guide others on their healing journey. Amanda has had a couple of career transitions along the way, starting with a business degree in human resources and continuing her education with an MBA. She then gained her training in software engineering and has worked in the tech industry for 7 years. She's an avid animal lover with a dog and a cat, a humanitarian, a feminist, and a plant mom, and she plays music as well. She has a podcast currently in the works called the Trauma Shift Podcast. It is not released yet, but it will be available on Spotify and Apple hopefully soon. Here is my interview with Amanda. So I'm welcoming Amanda to the show today. Welcome, Amanda.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you
and
too.
Everyone.
Yeah, glad you reached out to me to be on the show. So let's just start. Tell us the circumstances surrounding your adoption story, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, mine is not the typical one. Mine was actually planned pre-birth. It wasn't through an agency or anything. So I was born a domestic adoptee, transracial. I'm Puerto Rican in a huge mix. But like the other side is like basically all of Eastern European. My adoptive parents had a bunch of miscarriages. My adopted mom had a stillbirth. And she, I don't know, what her thought process was, but the stillbirth was 1978. I was born in 1981. Her coworker, who come to find out now that I know everything, was my birth mother's sister. She came up to my mom at work one day and asked her if she was interested in adopting a baby. She's like, my friend, my birth mother, I had to give up a baby. She's like, I don't know. I think she was like 4 or 5 months pregnant at that point. And like my adopted mom was like, yes, we will. And everything else went through like lawyers. So I was with my birth mother in the hospital for like the first 3 days, and I was a cesarean. And so my adoptive mom was like, always told me like, oh, you were in the hospital for 7 days. But like when I got my paperwork a few years ago, it's like I was actually only there for like 3 days. The lawyer picked me up and then brought me to my adoptive parents.
So no foster parents in between there?
Nothing. No, just like the lawyer picked me up and then took me to my adoptive parents' house.
Wow.
I'm trying to think, besides that, I think another thing to note would be that was basically that part of that. But I did not know I was adopted until I was around kindergarten age. I asked my parents like why I was 50 shades darker than them. And then that's when it came out. So I never was like always told or anything. And then when my mom told me, my adopted mom told me, I was like, well, who are they? Like, where are they? Like, I wanted to know like everything. Like, I was like super curious. I think one issue with the way that they told me, it was like my adopted mom that told me like everything. But the way that she told me is like my birth mother was a single mom. She already had my brother who was like 5 years older than me. Her parents were racist. So I think that was like probably not the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
For, a kindergartner.
Yeah. I mean, what were you thinking at that point? Could you even kind of digest all of that, what she was saying, or?
No, like, I think that was just like a gut to my stomach. Like that was like, just brought my self-esteem really down. And like, I experienced racism in my adopted family, like with my adopted dad's mother. Like, she just like, she never outwardly said something specific, but I just remember her treating me differently than the rest of my cousins. And she just, I don't know, she was just not a nice person. And then she tried making up for it like a few years before she passed away, but I'm like, the damage was done already. Yeah. So, yeah.
So you said you had an older brother from your biological mom? So she had one child. Did that register? Like, why did you keep him and not me at that point?
Yeah, that was like one of the big daggers too. It's like, you kept him, but you got rid of me. Yeah.
And then that probably kind of compounded in your head about the racism part.
Yeah, the racism.
That maybe that was why.
Yeah, there was just like a lot in my head going on at the time.
Yeah.
And then, like, there was like, I mean, I wasn't conscious of it, but now looking back, it's like I always had like some sort of like abandonment issues because our separation anxiety, like when my parents tried leaving me at like with anyone to like babysit me, like I would just like bawl. When they tried taking me to daycare, I was bawling. I had to have a blankie. So during daycare is like when my mom had me like, she's like, I can't deal with this. So like my grandma was like, well, we'll watch her. But that was like her mom. So like my adopted mom's mom. But like when that happened, like she still had like my two uncles living at the house. Like my adopted mom comes from like 9 kids. So she has like 6 brothers, 3 sisters, like it's a huge family. So they were like around 18, but like the one is the one that like sexually molested me. I only have one memory and I didn't know like what it was at the time. So when I finally figured it out, that was like another thing that was like adolescent age when you like know about sex and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, that happened.
Wow. Did you tell your mom?
I tried telling them, but that was like when I was like going through my rebellious age. So like they just thought it was like a lie or something and then like shoved it under the rug.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to like, I had like separation anxiety. I had like all these like things going on that were like, there's something, like, but that at that time, like nobody went to like therapist. Well, from my family, like they thought that anyone that went to like therapy, like those were for like crazy people.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, and they don't, and back then, even back then it was, so what, you were adopted. That
yeah. It's like, just like raise her.
That's not where any of this comes from.
Raise her as she's like just the rest of the family.
Yeah.
So that was like another thing. It's like I lost my culture. I didn't have any of that like like they would like go to like Mexican restaurants. They thought that was like doing their job, like
Right.
totally different
Yeah.
culture and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is just definitely like a lack of knowledge.
Mirroring.
Yes.
Did you have any siblings growing up then with your adoptive family?
So 7 years after I was born, they ended up having like my little sister, like their natural child.
Oh, okay.
But like 7 years, big age
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I was just like super jealous. And then I think in the back of my head, I was like, are they going to give me up now since they have their baby?
Did you notice a difference in the way they treated her and you?
I couldn't really like pinpoint anything, but it's just like a feeling you get, like that's their child.
Yeah.
They tried acting like, oh, it's not like a big deal or whatever.
Yeah.
But there should have been like some sort of like communication around the adoption and, having your own child and
yeah, it's gotta be
integrating.
similar to like having a blended family and then that couple has their baby together and you kind of still feel like, well, that's theirs.
Like
and
the
I'm
outcast.
yeah,
Yes.
similar. So when do you remember being told, and then after you were told, did that thought just stay in your mind from then
my
on, or did
God.
you kind of forget, like, or were you like,
No, I was like, that was like always on my mind. And I'm like, are they going to come get me? Are they going to come find me? And like, they knew a little bit of pieces of information from my mom's coworker, quote unquote. So they knew like my birth father had like 3 kids, or 2 or 3. What I told was like 2 or 3 kids on his own that were like boys. So
Did
he
he
was
know
like
about you?
married.
Oh, okay.
They like, I don't know, like I got like mixed information. Like he did know, he didn't know. But like now I know that like my birth mother did try telling him, he didn't believe her. He was still married at that time.
I see.
But like it wasn't 3 boys. It was my older sister and 2 boys, 2 brothers.
Oh, okay. So when you look back now, like growing up and even maybe early into adulthood, did you see or recognize now any tendencies that you could probably link back to adoption? Like you said, the abandonment issue, anything else that you can like look back and
abandonment, rejection. I was just like always super like, I don't know.
How'd that affect your relationships, like dating and
dating is a mess. That's like something I'm trying to heal right now, but dating was a mess. I feel like I especially since like my parents like they weren't emotionally available. Like they didn't talk about emotions. It was just surface level. So it's like another layer to the package. But yeah, I felt like I dated a lot of guys that were emotionally unavailable. If they were available, there was probably like some self-sabotaging that I didn't realize at the time that I was doing. And I just like put up with stuff that I probably shouldn't have for like too long. And then like it ended and like I can think of like a couple relationships. It was like 3 years and it's like I should have ended that like after 6 months or 3 months. Like it was just like way too long of dealing with like BS.
It seems like I see, the 2 extremes. Like I see people that get super clingy, and then I see people that as soon as the significant other tries to attach, then
that's how I am too.
back.
Like I'm like the disorganized attachment style.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, once you like show me like too much, then I'm like, okay, I
really
out.
want that. And then it's like, never mind.
I'm like, I need to work on this.
So you just had the one sister growing up then that was their biological.
Yeah. And I had a bunch of cousins. Because my dad's side he had 3 sisters, a brother. So like my older cousins, like I was like always hanging out with them. So I'm pretty close with them. And
How is it
then
with your sister? How's your
not
relationship?
close. I
Not
feel
close.
like, yeah, I feel like she has probably resentment towards me too, because I was like super rebellious once I hit teenage years. I'm like, I did not want to listen to anybody, but also my adopted dad was very strict. And his dad, my grandpa, is like from the military.
Mm.
Um, so I know that like my grandpa was strict. So that's probably like another thing. It was just like super strict. And I'm like, I want out of here.
Yeah.
And I did all the things. I was, I was partying, I was drinking, but at the same time, it's like that was like my only outlet because I couldn't talk about all this other stuff. Like I had to
Mhm.
suppress it. I had to be grateful. I had to be happy
Yeah. Yeah.
that I was adopted.
Right. Do you have any kids?
I do not. I think I've been like putting it off for like, especially like I wanted to like go through this healing and stuff, but I'm like grateful that I have not brought a child in yet because I'm like, I just have all this work to do
Mhm.
to heal. Like I
Yeah.
just finally started healing, like started the process 2018. But I mean like just started, but like that was, I mean, we went through a lot the past couple of
Yeah.
years with the
Yeah.
epidemic and everything.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot to dig through. It's not like a one and done
Yeah.
session and you've erased all your adoption trauma and everything else.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah. Which
happen.
I feel like it's going to be like a forever thing, but at least like,
Maintenance or something at some point,
yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just so many layers to it.
Yeah. Right. So let's talk about reunions for a minute.
Mhm.
Did you find your biological family? And if so, how did it go? And
Yeah. I started looking as soon as I could since, so my birth mother came over to Indiana. She was like Illinois, like, because they worked in Chicago. So she came over to Indiana because my adopted parents lived in Indiana because I guess the process was easier to do the adoption. So I went through state of Indiana to try to get my paperwork. I don't think I could get it until I was 21. When I tried to get the paperwork though, it was just like all, oh, what is it called? I forget, like when they
like
just give
the
you like the,
identifying information.
and then yeah, I could only get that information. So I just got her age, which I already knew that she was 26 when she had me, and her race, Caucasian. So I was like, okay, like what's the next step? And they're like, well, you could like get an attorney and do all this other stuff. And I'm like, that's so expensive. This had to be like early 2000s.
Oh
Like
my gosh.
there wasn't Facebook wasn't a thing yet. There was no like groups like that. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go about my life.
Yeah.
But 2018 is when they actually started opening up. They changed the law so like I could get
Mm.
my paperwork. So I did
And
it
what
as soon as I could.
and what paperwork is that? Like
So
names
to
and
get the identifying
oh wow.
information. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I guess like prior to 1992 is like that's the cutoff. Like if you were born after 1992 in Indiana, like you could get your identifying
Okay.
information as long as the birth parent, didn't sign a waiver saying no.
Oh.
But yeah, so 2018 they changed it so like everyone could like go do it. So they really had like a huge backlog, and
Yeah.
I waited, I think it was like 6 months to get it. And then luckily though, like, they're like posting stuff on like Facebooks, and like there were groups, and there was like Indiana connections and things like that, and groups that you could like actually go and meet people and talk about all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I think I was like pretty delusional. I'm like on cloud nine. I'm like, I'm gonna get that information. And then like people are talking about like the horror stories of like when they like do the reunion, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to prepare myself for this.
Yeah.
And my health started to tank around
Mm.
that time. I always had like chronic fatigue and like a sensitive stomach and things like that, but it got worse, and I had dizzy spells. I didn't like actually pass out, but like I got so lightheaded where
Yeah.
like I got to that point, and like I was going to the doctors, like no one could figure anything out. I'm like, oh my God, what
I had the
Like going through all
same,
this,
same. Yes.
like
I know
going through
exactly
all
what you're talking
this.
about. Right. It's
And
so
then like,
frustrating.
and then I couldn't eat food like anymore. Like there was like so many foods I was like sensitive to. I'd like start breaking out. I'm like stuck with limited amount of diet. And I'm like, okay, this is not good. Like I just need to get this done. And then I started seeing a functional doctor at that time because I'm like, I need someone to. So like I was like doing like all these like naturopathic things to get myself back in order.
Yeah. How did
Which
that work? Did it
I'm
work?
still not up to speed. Like it'll work for like a few months and then I feel like it's better now that I've like done a lot of trauma healing and settling my system.
So do you think a lot of it is psychologically
I think it's all
brought
the
on,
trauma stuck, all the stress just stuck in the body.
causing disease? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not fun. So yeah, it was like 6 months. Because I filled out the paperwork around April 2018, got the paperwork like right around like Halloween that year. And I got her name, but my father's name was nowhere to be found on the form. But her name was really easy. I did a Google search, found it in 5 minutes.
Wow.
So
Wow.
like taking all the advice from like the groups and like, okay, I'll write her a letter because everyone's like, if you call them, they might just like hang up. So I'm like, I'll write a letter, sent like some pictures, and I waited and I didn't hear anything. And like, well, Ancestry has like half off for the holidays. So let me do Ancestry, see if I can find like anything on the birth side, on the birth father side. And since this was around the holidays, like it took forever to get anything back. So I think I waited until like mid-January. So that was like 2019. And then when I got it, I'm like, holy crap, there's so many like connections on my birth father side. Like I have my ancestry right here, and I'm like, I have at least, I don't even know how many, a lot. His family's huge, but there was no close connections. Like it was all like third, fourth cousins, but I was like able to like pull together like a family tree.
Yeah.
And like kind of like dig down a little bit. And my birth mother was on Ancestry.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I'll give it a week and then I'm gonna reach out. Cause this by this time, I think it was like 3 months since I sent the letter to her and haven't heard anything back.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her on there.
On
like,
Ancestry?
hey, yeah. I'm like, hey, I tried sending you a letter, blah, blah, blah. And then she emails me like outside of that, because I gave her my email address. And then she's like, I'm sorry, I was just like in such a phase when I got your thing and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, she only wanted to communicate through email. Like she didn't want to communicate over the phone. She doesn't like to talk on the phone. So that makes it hard because I'm like, I don't want to like put too much in an email. I don't want to like be like too overbearing. I don't want to be like to this or to that.
Right.
So we were emailing back and forth for a few months. And then I finally got I asked for my birth father's name. So once I got that, I like plugged it into like the thing and figured out who he was right away, except for his last name is super common. So trying to find like his contact info is really hard. So it took a little bit, I'd say like a couple weeks to find his information. And then I reached out through, like I sent him a letter too, but I sent it certified. Okay. So I knew when he'd receive it.
Yeah.
So I got the alert the day that he received it. And then I got a phone call that evening on speakerphone with him, his, I guess, second wife, and my aunt and my cousin all on speakerphone. And I'm like, holy crap, this is like a lot. But
couldn't prepare for that one.
He was like, oh my God. Like he was like super excited and happy to hear from me. he wanted to know like all the things, but I'm like, this is just like too much. And like we scheduled like a time to like talk, like just us. So we did that, and then he wanted to fly me because he's in Florida. So he wanted to fly me to Florida so I could like meet the family. I did that. I also met my birth mother on my birthday. Because all of this like happened around like April 2019. So I met my
Where's your mom at? Where was she?
She's in a suburb of Illinois.
Okay, so nearby.
Yeah, so she wasn't like too far. And then he paid for my plane ticket to come out there. His birthday is actually Tuesdays after mine. So that was interesting to find out. And then one thing that gave me red flags was that he's estranged from my siblings. And I was like, and he's like, yeah, their mom like was like really upset after like we got the divorce, and she kept them away from me. And I'm like, okay, like let's try to connect us and whatever. So he started talking to my sister, who's 10 years older than me. And she was like open to it. And then like me and her started talking. And then she started telling me what really happened. Like her mom was distant from him, but at the same time, he didn't like, he moved to like they lived in like New York. And he moved to like a different place and didn't tell them like where they moved to. Because like, I guess it was like walking distance. Like my sister and my brothers would like go walk when they'd like stay at his house, like on weekends or whatever. And they walked there one weekend and he wasn't there. And he had moved. Wow. So they didn't know. So it was like, you know, like a 10-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
She's 10. My other brothers were like 7 and 5 around that time. So yeah, I'm like, you left that out. And my sister,
did you tell him that?
I didn't like come out and say it, but I just like kept, I was like what is it called? The attachment style where you're like ghosting a little bit.
Yeah.
That's how I was.
And just kind of feeling everyone out because, you know, you don't really know who's telling the truth and who isn't. And you're still trying to piece everything together. So,
yeah. And then my sister was telling me, she's like, and then when I was 16, I called my dad at work saying that I wanted to go meet him for lunch and try to reconnect. And at first he's like, yeah, let's do that. And then the day of, like, he calls her and says, my wife wouldn't want like that. Like, how can you tell that to your 16-year-old daughter?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, you left a lot out. And like they let them, like the way that he like described it to like me and his sisters is like it was the mother that kept the kids away. When he also played a part in that.
Right.
And he said that he didn't know about me, but I mean, from what I'm gathering, because my sister's stepdad told her, like, after like she talked to me and like, you know, like we developed a relationship. He's like, oh yeah, your mom told me about a baby. And she's like, why didn't you ever tell me? He's like, I didn't think it was my place to say anything. So it's like he knew, like, and he was trying to say that like when he didn't believe my mom that she was pregnant. So
right.
You know, so I'm like grieving all of this stuff from like everybody. It's like I'm like, I can only like I want a relationship with my siblings, but like the parents,
So how is it with your dad right now? Are you talking to him or not? Or
it's very limited. It's like holidays. Both of our birthdays were like just the other week. So like I sent him something. So yeah, it's just like birthdays, holidays.
And how about with your mom? How
Very,
was it when
very
you met
limited.
her, and like what happened with that?
Yeah, with my like she's like another one, like it's very hard to get information out of. Um she's like if I ask her something, like she'll say it, but if she like doesn't want to answer, then she'll just ignore it. It's very hard to talk. I mean, it was nice meeting her. And I went to her house and met my older brother.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my older brother connected over Facebook, but I mean, he'll like send me like random like messages like saying that his like wife is beating him, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
What am I supposed to do with
Yeah,
that?
I don't know what to do.
So how many siblings do you have then? Half
So
siblings?
4 half, and then the one from my adopted family.
And
So
how
5.
are the relationships with your half siblings?
So me and my sister, from my birth father, my half sister, um, we're pretty like communicative, and she has like a daughter and 3 boys, and it's crazy that they're like, 10 years younger than me. But I mean, I love them all, and I went out to Pennsylvania. They live in Pennsylvania. So I went out to Pennsylvania for like my sister's, like, I think it's her second marriage. So that was fun. I got to hang out with her and like meet all of them. And it was just crazy. Like, just like realizing like, okay, me and my sister have like a lot of the similar features, but look different still. But you can tell we're family. And I can like see it in my niece too. You can see like a lot of the same features. So
I
yeah,
don't
that
look
was
like
like
any of my half siblings. I don't look like any of them, but I look like I'm a combination of both my birth parents, but I don't
Mhm.
look like any of my siblings. And that was kind of disappointing for me, I think.
Yeah,
Not
it's just
seeing that
weird.
mirroring. I was so excited to have like siblings, and then I was like, oh.
And it's like weird. It's like certain like the way like we'll turn our faces. It's like you can see it. Like front on a little bit, like depending on like,
Mhm.
like our facial expressions. Like it's like, yeah, for sure. And then other
Yeah.
ones are like, well, are they sisters? But like, yeah, you can like tell. So it's like different. But yeah, like what's definitely with like both my birth parents, I'm like, I see the similarities in both.
Yeah.
It's weird how that happens.
Do you have any like the way you talk or the way you do certain things do you see that mirrored in your biological family at all?
Definitely from my birth father. Like we have the same like appendages, long fingers, long toes, skinny feet. It's just weird. Like I could like see like the way like he like does stuff, and he
I know. It's weird.
like I'll talk to myself. I'm like, like, just like make random noises when I'm like doing stuff. And he does the same thing. That side is like all musicians. I'm a musician. And it was just like interesting to like, find that out. Like that was like my, where I got my musical talents. And then on my birth mother, like she worked like as like an admin assistant, but she was interested in like interior design. That's like another thing that like I love the arts and interior
Mm-hmm.
design and all that stuff. So it's like weird like seeing like, you know, how that stuff just like creeps through.
Yeah. I saw a lot of mirroring with my birth mother, and just like, I think we laughed the same, and
Mm-hmm.
just how we moved our bodies a lot of times, it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of weird. Like, um, I didn't feel like she was my mom, but I felt like she was like a close aunt or a cousin or something
Yeah.
that we just, I don't know, there was just a lot of similarities that were kind of fun like that to discover that I never saw growing up, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Because that was like the hardest thing growing up. It's like I don't have any one.
Yeah, I know. No mirroring.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give people that are looking for reuniting with their biological family? What did you learn from doing your
I'm like,
journey?
I thought I prepared, but I didn't. I feel like probably being in therapy way before even starting the process is a good idea, because I didn't start until like right before or something around there. Like I didn't have anyone like walking me like through like talking about like all the things that were like coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like definitely like way important. Yeah, you can prepare like they're gonna like not want to talk, but at the same time it's like you need to prepare for the after effects, like knowing the story and knowing the impact on like all these people that it affected. And I'm like super empath, so I take everything on. And
Mm-hmm.
like my health was so bad at that time.
Yeah.
And
How'd your
I was
birth
like,
or your adoptive family feel about you finding your birth family?
so they like mind fucked me when I was growing up with like be grateful, and I don't think they wanted me to look. They're like, why would you want to? And it was just like I think like, you know, like insecure attachment with
Right,
them.
right.
And then when I was older and like the law was changing, they're like, oh, you should do it. And I'm like, oh, well, why couldn't you give me the support back then, you know?
Right. So how is
So
your relationship with them now?
now it is, I'm still trying to navigate it. It's like because like they are still like stuck in their ways. They don't really talk about emotions. There's a lot to unpack still from back then. And I mean, I feel like they just thought like, oh, you could just like sweep it under the rug. It happened. There's no
Yeah.
after effects, but there is. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wish that they would be open to therapy, like some sort of family therapy or counseling or something. But they're not. So right now it's just like surface level. Um, I don't really see them that much. I don't really talk to them that much right now. So I need to do my own healing.
Yeah. You gotta take care of you.
Yeah, but I wish that
It's
they would, I don't know, acknowledge some stuff.
yeah. I know that's one thing I've discovered is everybody's in their own fog, and even adoptive parents are in their own fog,
Mhm.
about what really happens with adoption. So talking about fog, are you in the fog? Are you out of the fog? Do you even use that term? I know some adoptees don't like to use that term, but
Yeah,
where are you at?
I don't really know if I relate to the term. I don't know. Have you ever listened to Adoptees On
I
with
think I
Haley
have a couple
Radke?
times.
Like I would listen to one of their recent episodes. They're like something about like not using that term anymore for some reason. I forget exactly why, but like I don't know if I was ever in the fog. Like I feel like I always knew something was off. Um, I just didn't know that adoption was trauma because there was like no terminology for that until like, you know, the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, knowing that like I did go through trauma and I have PTSD, and that's something I wish that was known back then.
Yeah. So what did you do to start healing? What did you find that was helping you?
So I started seeing a therapist that did brain spotting and started teaching me like meditation. I moved back to Chicago though late summer 2019, so I had to find like a different therapist. So I found an adoptee one, but she was like super religious, so like I only had a couple sessions with her.
Mm,
I found another therapist that did brain spotting. And then over the pandemic, I was able to get an ADHD diagnosis because that's like another thing I was living with all along that time. So that was good. And then I I started going to like an ADHD specific therapist, and then sought out a different like trauma therapist that does EMDR. So we're working on like the mini traumas right now. And I think it's good like having like the two different ones. Like my ADHD therapist, she's also like half Puerto Rican, half Caucasian. So we kind of have that, like she knows where I'm coming from. And then yeah, the EMDR. And I think reading that book, like The Body Keeps the Score, like knowing like, okay, you can like try this. So like around the same time, like I started doing yoga, breath work, and that went down the rabbit hole. That leads me to like bringing down the rabbit hole of like hypnosis, meditation. And I feel like those all really helped. But like preparing for hypnosis, because I didn't realize how dysregulated I was.
Mm-hmm.
So like doing meditation was like very, very difficult. And then trying to get a hypnosis was very difficult. So I'm like, I had to do like these somatic exercises,
Yeah.
breath work, finding EFT tapping has also been great. So doing all the things and getting regulated.
Yeah. Yeah. The tapping and the breath work, it's like, it's like getting ready to go to the gym. It's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I know.
But then afterwards you're like, oh, that felt so good.
Yeah, I know. That's how it is. It's like, I got to like coach myself. I'm like, you'll feel great after you're done. Just,
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I felt like, with the hypnosis, well, with meditation, that was kind of easy for me because I could check out real easily. And that felt really good. Just going to that place and just like floating around, and not having to think or feel or, anything. Of course, things come up in my brain, that pop in that I need to know, which are pretty cool when that happens. But, meditation was different than learning this hypnosis stuff now where you have to check in and go to your right brain and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know. Like I'm so left brained and so like walled off. And I didn't know how walled off I was. And now it's like that ice is melting and I can't stop it. Like, and now there's these nerves that are like getting raw, which in a good way though, but in a scary way for me right now. So it's just like, I'm in the journey, with the SMGI right now and I'm learning it, but I'm also the student. So I'm going through it and I'm just like, oh my God.
Are you doing practice with the other students in there?
Yeah. And with other people too. So it's been really cool. And we're just getting into like doing the whole, 90-minute whole session. And I'm just like freaking out. I'm like, I'm going to cry. And I never cry. Like I hardly ever cry or like show emotions. But I mean, I was just doing a session last week and it was just like a 5-minute and I could feel like the tears were coming in my eyes and it was just the induction part. And I was just like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So uncomfortable.
I know. I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't like show emotions to other people easily. Like I have to be by myself. It has to be like another like adoptee.
Yeah. I always feel like I make sure everybody else is okay. Like I'm taking care of everybody else and I'm, taking care of this and that. And then, then I can let go after I feel like, okay, that everyone else is okay. Now I can focus on myself, and sometimes it never happens till later, a lot later down the road,
Like for like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like if you have like a death in the family or something, do you have like a delay reaction?
Yeah.
Like that's how I was too. I'm like, I thought I was weird. And like people are like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you upset? And I'm like, I haven't processed it.
Right.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. You just feel numb. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how to explain it either, but that's the closest I can think of is you just kind of feel numb, and walled off from it. You can't access it.
Yeah. I found that, well, another thing I've tried, some psychedelic therapy, and that has had some big breakthroughs, I think,
I've heard
this past
that.
year. Yeah. I have done some micro ones that I was by myself, which I don't recommend to anyone.
Yeah.
So I recommend having like a trip sitter or somebody that is trained to do it.
Right.
I felt comfortable just because like I've done psychedelics before and like I don't know. I just felt comfortable as for myself, but I don't recommend it at all.
Right. So what did that do exactly? I mean, I've heard people explain it as it just kind of opened up their awareness more, but how would you describe it?
I think for me, it's just breaking down some barriers. Like the first one, like the big message I got was we're all connected. It was like definitely like a very spiritually, it was a very cool experience. Just like knowing like we're all connected, like there's I don't want to say like there's a reason for everything, but like there's like, you know, a spiritual aspect to like everything that we're going through. And then the second one was like the message I got was expansion is within me. So I think that was like, you know, like a very like elevating, like to get my self-esteem back up. And I felt like that after that, like, you know, it's just like you have to do the integration work too afterwards though. Like you can't just like have a trip and be like, okay,
I'm
go
all
about
better.
like yeah. Yeah, there's definitely integration. So like I mean like self-esteem is like something like I feel like I continually need to work on. And then my third one, it was, what was my message now? That one was a crazy one. Like I like saw things and they were like scary things. So I think it was just like, you know, like walking through the darkness and like seeing the other side. Like the other side is on the way and, you know, basically like I guess like I'm doing a great job and just to keep going.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like during them and like it might sound crazy, but I felt like, you know, I had my ancestors with me. I had like spirit guides with me. Like I had them with me, like guiding me along the journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Were they adoptive relatives or biological relatives that were there?
I think like the ancestors that I seen were like my Puerto Rican, like like very like, you know, like the ancient ancestors. Like
so nobody recognized like visually, but you knew you were connected. Yeah.
Yeah. And then spirit guide wise, like past life stuff. I don't want to get like too woo-woo, but
no, I love it. Go ahead.
I don't know if like anyone else in the audience is like woo-woo like that, but like definitely like felt like spirit guides with me that were like past life. I don't want to like go into like time as an illusion, but like like there's like future selves of me and then past selves of me all together, like helping guide along the way. Yeah. Yeah, it's very like deep and like yeah. So it's
tell
very
me
different. Very different from
but
like
I've heard from multiple people about psychedelics. I interviewed an adoptive mom, Beth Syverson. She's a podcast as well, and she did that, and she was kind of saying similar to you. The experience that she had was kind of like that. So
yeah, I love
interesting. So tell me about quantum hypnosis. You have a certification.
Quantum hypnosis, you can definitely connect with all of your spirit guides, ancestors. You can explore past lives that are not on the earth. So there can be like some galactic stuff. I don't know if other people are into that, but my teacher, she's like she's called the Starseed Awakener. So I don't know if other people know what starseeds are, but it's galactic stuff. And she has her own podcast too that like goes into like hypnosis sessions that she's done for her clients, that you basically like go through like the induction. I don't know how long your hypnosis inductions are, but ours are about, it like goes about 30 minutes and we're playing bilateral music as we're like inducting people. But we want to set an intention initially to like, what do you want to explore? So you can explore past lives, galactic stuff, whatever you want. And then we bring the higher self through after we like go through whatever life you want to experience and see what needs to be healed, and any recommendations from your higher self.
That's cool.
Really cool and interesting. I've had like my own sessions, because we did practice sessions with students,
Mhm.
and I'm like, did that really happen? Like, did I really experience, like, you definitely like question, like, holy crap, but it's
Yeah.
like, did my mind really make that up? Because I've never seen that before, you know?
Right. How did
So
you feel
there's,
about, was it easy for you um to go into hypnosis? Like, were you able to easily
I
be
definitely had to prep my
Mm,
first, like, before my first time. It's like I had to like do like a deep like a yoga nidra. I don't know if you've ever done those, but I had to like do yoga nidra, some breath work, and like get myself like calmed out. And then my other two ones, like I microdosed that earlier that day to make sure like my brain was just like, we're gonna let this
mhm.
happen, let
Yeah,
it in.
right.
Those were like definitely like a lot more easier. But yeah, I feel like with like anyone that has trauma, it's not easy to get into hypnosis.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was afraid of too. I was worried about that, but I did pretty good, I think.
Microdosing does help. And like
Yeah,
doing all the somatic stuff, if you don't want to like microdose, and I know that it is illegal in a lot of states.
yeah.
But there is like legislation happening where trying to, you know,
Hmm.
open it up, because I mean, it's a plant and it is, well, I'm talking about mushrooms specifically, but like
Yeah,
it's a plant, and like our ancestors used it for ceremony. Well, at least I know my ancestors use it for ceremonies.
yeah. I know that there's legislation trying to use some of that stuff for mental health
Hmm.
issues and stuff too, which I
Yeah, because
think
they
it
have
would
like the
probably help.
ketamine and
Hmm.
MDMA. But like, I'm like, I don't want to use like a chemical like that. Like, I'd rather
Hmm.
like use something that's like Mother Nature. Like,
More
I just like
natural.
use, yeah, natural.
Yeah. So you're practicing this, like people can contact you and
Yeah, they can go on my website. I'm also going to be offering like a nervous system reset for if any adoptee wants to reach out, like I'll work with them. I am maxing it at like 3 for right now, but I do like want to like help support whoever I can. I just asked because I'm like finishing up a certification for breath work, and like I'm doing like some like other yoga certifications that
Mhm.
I just have to do a case study. So if you're okay with me writing about your experience,
Documenting. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it'll be free for the month of May. And yeah, the QHC, I I think I have like a 20% discount if anyone wants to connect with me.
Okay.
And the code is galactic, and they can email me, Amanda at
Yeah. And I'll
thetraumashift.com.
put that in the show notes. Do you have a website?
Yes, it's thetraumashift.com.
Yeah.
Make it
So
easy for everybody.
that's going to be the name of your new podcast, right? That's
Yes,
coming up
yes,
hopefully soon. So what
yes.
is this? What's your podcast about?
It's going to be like all things trauma, and somatic exercises. I want to do like some like live events, some like live free events that people can join. It's just getting my ADHD brain to sit down and do it. The thing is, like, I also work full time,
Mm,
not in any of the space. Like, and I'm working in the tech field. So I'm like, my brain just like wants to rest and like not do anything else after work. But I'm like, if I want to get this going, if I want this to be like my full-time thing, I need to do it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I know for me, it's like I sit down to do one thing and then 15 minutes later, I was like, what was
Yeah,
I'm not doing what I said I was going
exactly. Exactly. I'm like,
to do. Maybe I have ADHD.
I mean, there's like a lot of women that like were, just like overlooked when they were younger, because it wasn't until like the last decade or so, like where, like inattentive type ADHD like was like a thing, and people like even people that were like misdiagnosed bipolar or borderline
Hmm.
got re-diagnosed, and it's been like ADHD the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like ADHD on top of like trauma on top of
There's so
sexual
many
abuse.
people that are getting late diagnosis of that, you know, as adults.
But the thing is, like I remember in like high school and like elementary school, it's like the only ones that got diagnosed were like the little boys that were like super hyper, jumping off the walls.
Yeah.
Not the little girls that were like off daydreaming and looking out the window.
Yep.
I don't know if school is hard for you, like, but like I could not like concentrate in school. It was just like impossible. I couldn't like sit.
I was good until like high school, but that was just because I was a teenager and didn't want to do my homework and, you know, the teenage stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so we'll put all your links and stuff in the show notes so that people can find you. And is there anything else that you want to discuss that we didn't cover?
Trying to think. I think we like went over a lot. Just let people know like I'm also here to support. And I do offer like a free like initial consultation for an hour so people can chat with me whenever they want. I wish I was more active in Facebook, but like I like kind of like deleted Facebook like during the pandemic. I'm like, I can't handle it. It was too much.
Yeah.
But maybe I should like reactivate it so I could join more groups again.
Yeah.
Get more involved.
And it's such there's such an uprising right now of adoptees that it's really cool to watch. I mean, obviously it's a public space, so not 100% safe, you know. There's a lot of triggering things and you know, just keep scrolling and but it's also a very supportive space as well. And like you were saying about reunions and stuff, you know, to have those couple people in place that you can bounce off what happened and, you know, kind of somebody that understands, has been through it and not necessarily give you any advice, which, you know, they can, but just having somebody that understands is huge.
Yeah, just listen
on that journey.
Especially like if you can't like talk to like anybody in your adopted family, which I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was really hard. Oh yeah. Like another thing is like my like little sister like was mad because like I didn't like forthcome all of the information. Like she did like was upset she wasn't included. And I'm like, I don't even know how to describe how I feel about all of this all. Like I don't have words for this.
Yeah. That's a private journey. I mean, you know.
Yeah. But to like get mad.
Yeah.
At me.
Well, there's another person.
I'm like, I'm sorry.
I know, right? It's like,
I'm sorry to everybody. I'm sorry for.
I'm just trying to do me right now. Sorry. I know. Well, thanks for coming on today, Amanda. And we'll put your links in the show notes. So if anybody wants to find Amanda, it will be there.
Excited to connect.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Thanks again, Amanda, for coming on Mind Your Own Karma. And just so everyone knows, you cannot get too woo-woo for me. I'm always into the woo-woo. And if you would like to know more about Amanda and her quantum hypnosis and all the other things that are coming up for her, all her links are in the show notes. Now, I want to talk to you, the listener. Yes, you that's listening right now. Have you rated and reviewed the podcast on your listening platform yet? If you haven't, please do so. It only takes a minute, it's free, and it helps get the word out about this podcast and about adoption relinquishment. If you would like to know more about all the things Mind Your Own Karma, you can go to my website, mindyourownkarma.com. You can learn a little bit more about me and my mission for this podcast. Last but not least, if you would like to come on the show and tell your adoption story, you can email me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com and let's get you on the podcast. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.